Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Yesterday I repotted my root over rock Thuja here into this pot made by Sophie, and today I'm going to be repotting a smaller version, another root over rock Eastern White Cedar, into a new pot. Here is a look at yesterday's planting, and today I'm going to be doing my smaller version, my root over rock Thujas, and they're going into this brown clay pot. I'm going to start today by cleaning up the new pot. This is a used pot that I got at a Toronto Bonsai Society's silent auction. So I'll give it a rub down with the cloth, getting rid of any dirt, any lime on the pot, just giving it a general cleanup. So this pot, it's got made in Japan on the bottom of it. It's, not a real special pot, but it's a nice one. It's certainly a pot that this tree could go into a show in. It's a good looking rectangular pot. Here is a look at the trees I'll be repotting today. This is a natural root over rock. The seeds germinated on top of this rock and they grew up, and I've been managing their growth over the last 5 years. So I'll begin today by getting it out of the pot. So here I go. I picked out the new pot in the last video. The pot it's in was just a training pot. I got this at the thrift store for a couple of dollars. It was never meant as a display pot. So I think by moving this planting into that brown pot, it's going to elevate this whole planting to something that can be maybe put in a show. All right, here I go. I'm going to get the tree out of the pot. Again, I'll pull up on the rock, not on the trees. And it's coming. I was going to say I might have to scrape around the edges of the pot, but no, it's coming out. Wow. Now that is root bound. I'll take the pot away and begin working on the roots. So I'll remove the moss. There's a lot of weeds in here. So I want to start over with the moss. I don't want to continue growing all these weeds. Nasty little things. So it looks like a lot of these roots have wrapped around multiple times in this pot. So when roots are this tangled, it's just a matter of being patient. Just, working on the roots slowly, just untangling them, teasing them out, and eventually you'll get the root system sorted out. You can see how long the roots are there. Very long. Now this planting, I don't have to worry about the trees separating from the rock because the roots have grown right into the rock. The trees will not detach, which is kind of nice, not having to worry about that. Most root over rock plantings, you got to be careful that the tree doesn't loosen up from the rock with all this root work. Now the question will be, will I expose a little more rock this time? Probably I will. It's always exciting when you can raise your root over rock planting a bit. I don't know how high I can go, but we will see. It may not look good high either, you never know. Something I'll just have to try out. I'm going to start working on the bottom of the root base now, and I'll try and get my drainage screens out. Or there may be just one big one in here, I'm not sure. I think there's just one big drainage screen. I may have to cut some of these roots away. Yeah, I think they're kind of fused in with the drainage screen. And they're too long, these roots anyway. So I'll start a bit of root pruning. I think the amount of roots on the bottom had actually lifted the tree out of the pot a bit too. Because I think it was planted a lot deeper initially. Which is, you know, maybe a good thing and naturally raises the tree out of the pot over the years. Okay, I think I've got the roots down to the point where I can wash them and then comb them out. So let's get cleaned up here and wash the roots. All right, into the bucket of water the root system goes. And I'll get my rake. I'll just kind of rake and wash. All right, I'm going to get the pot and I'll just try out the composition in the pot here. Yeah, it fits the pot quite nicely. I'd have to angle it so it's about like that. And then I have the option of, you know, angling it forward and back. It actually, I think it looks good with the trees forward. That definitely looks better. I think I want the trees about 1/3 in from the pot. I think somewhere here is pretty good. Now I won't have to do any root pruning because everything's looking good. Now I can play around with the height of the stone in the pot too, raising it up if I need to. I don't think that looks as good. I think right now I've got kind of a balance the height of the rock versus the pot, and it looks pretty good in this position. If I were to raise it up, I think I'm getting too much rock and too little pot. I don't think there's much point raising it up any higher. I think it's looks quite natural the way it is. I don't want the focus to be on the rock. I want the focus to be on the whole composition, the pot, the rock, and the trees. I don't want any one thing to stand out. And if I raise the rock up, the rock stands out. If I keep it down lower, I've got that good balance between the trees, the rock, and the pot. So I think this is a good composition. And I do like the color of the pot. It matches the color of the trunks of the trees and makes the rock and the moss pop out. Okay, I think this is going to be the planting angle. I'll just show you what I was talking about from the front here. So here's the rock flat on, and I think it looks better tilted with the trees more forward. The rock is less flat on, it looks more interesting. And then if I raise it up too high, you can see how you see too much rock, and your eye goes to the rock. When it's lower, there's a nice balance between the pot, the rock, and the trees. So that's about where I'll plant it, is right about here, like that. All right, here I go with the planting now. So I'll place, hold on. I'll place the tree in the pot in the right position. I think somewhere about here. And I've got to get my trees upright. And I just have to sort my roots out a bit. I'm not doing much root work because I've already taken off a lot of roots from this planting. Okay, so the roots are arranged. Now I can begin filling the pot up with soil. So here I go. I'll put some back here to stabilize it from this side. I already have my drainage screens in the pot. Now, hopefully the rock will stay there, yes. Get some more soil. I'm going to have to check my planting angle before I get too far here. I just want the rock to stay up by itself until the roots fill the pot, and it'll definitely stay up by itself then. Okay. I'm going to have a look at the front and do the final arranging of the rock and the tree in the pot. All right, so right now it's leaning too far forward. I've got Straighten that rock out and the trees out a bit like that. That's looking nice. This center tree is nice and vertical. I think the change of planting angle suits the composition better because this trunk was on the angle and then it goes vertical. And from this view, from the front view, you don't see much of that angle. You see more of the vertical part of the tree. So it makes these three trees look better as a group. Now, I could move it over just a bit in the pot. It's a little too crowded to the right-hand side. I think that's looking quite nice. There's the front view. You see from the side view the trees are just slightly coming forward, which looks nice. Yeah, I think I'm happy. I wonder if I should move the whole thing back a bit. Maybe I should, just to give it a little more room up front here. Yeah, that looks better. It's set back in the pot a little more now. My rock is right to the edge back here. Yeah, I think that's a nice composition. Okay, I'm going to fill it in with soil now. I'm very happy with that. And I'll have to work this soil into the root system. I'm just getting the air pockets out, just getting the soil down into the root system. Making sure it's surrounding the rock and the roots. So I took a lot of roots off this tree today. So it may be a little slower, growing in spring, which is probably good for this tree. I don't want it to grow too quickly, because these trees would quickly outgrow this rock if I didn't keep them under control. And they probably will someday. I mean, trees grow, they get larger. I'm sure someday this rock will look too small. But then, you can always stack another rock underneath it, or just have the tip of the rock showing and moss all around it or something. There's always a solution to make it look good. Now you can see the soil is, fairly coarse. So I'm going to add some sand to the surface of this planting, just to hold the moisture in at the surface a little more, so it's not quite so porous. And then I'll be applying moss on top of the sand. So this sand is very similar to a top dressing of moss, kind of a moisture retaining layer. It does a very similar. It has a very similar effect, that the top of the soil doesn't get dry from evaporation quite as quickly with the sand up here. Okay, that is it with the sand. I'm going to give the tree a watering, but first I better stand back, have a look at it, make sure I don't want to change the angle of the tree or make any small adjustments. So let's step back and have a look at the tree. All right, I'm stepping back now. Wow, it looks like, again, like the shores of Lake Superior or something. Very, very cool planting. I'm very happy with it. I think it looks really well balanced in the pot. Yeah. No complaints. I think it's looking good. It's a big improvement over the blue training pot it was in. All right, here I go with the water now. I've got a little cleanup work to do on the roots here because I've exposed them more. There's some roots sticking out into the air that I've got to prune away. Now some of these, when I put the moss on, will be safely in the moss. Okay, so I think that's my next step, is to apply the moss to the planting. I've got my tray of moss, so I'll begin planting the moss, covering up all the bonsai soil. Okay, here I go. I'm going to start right out front here. So whenever you have big chunks of soil that you need to move, just move them out of the way. So this is some fine sidewalk moss. I'm just going to flatten it out a bit. It's a little thick. And then I can put it right up here, kind of butting against the rock. It's nice fine moss. The real good stuff. Well, it's looking good. And then I've got another piece here. I'll just, again, flatten it out a bit. We'll put that right in the corner here. Piecing the moss together like a jigsaw puzzle. And once the moss starts, greening up and growing, you can trim it with the scissors to make it so it doesn't get too bushy. And if you keep that up, you can keep your moss alive for many, many years. Okay, I'm going to put this one right up front here. Holding those roots down with the moss so they grow into the soil. This one, I think, would look good right here. So don't be afraid to really push your moss down, squish it. Moss is very, very tough. You won't hurt the moss by pushing too hard. You've almost got to integrate the moss in with the bonsai soil to really, take hold. Now I have a large piece here I could put right here, covering up a lot of this soil surface. I'm also trying to, not have a flat level of moss going around the rock. I'm trying to vary it so it's higher on the rock in some areas and lower on other areas, so you don't have that line, that transition line, which makes it look unnatural. So this moss I collected last year, and it's just been sitting in a tray outside on my bench over the winter. And I brought it in yesterday because I used up all the moss I had in the greenhouse on yesterday's planting. So it's always good to have some moss on hand, especially in the winter time, because it's pretty tough to find outside. Okay, now I need some moss in those little spots in here. I want the soil surface completely covered up. Well, that's looking good out front. I do have to go around the back still with my mossing, so I'll do that next. You can see I've got the whole back here. So the rock kind of angles out at the back, so I'm kind of building it up with a bit of moss here. Just filling in the little holes now, and mossing will be done. But I have to water it. I've got to wash the moss, because right now the moss is full of mud and that from me squishing it around. So I've got to wash out all that fine particles out of the moss to bring out the color. And once the sun comes out, I'm sure it'll really green up this moss. I mean, outside it didn't get the best of care. It was buried under the snow. Okay, I think this is looking good. That's the back, all mossed up. So my next step is to give it a thorough watering. So let's do that next. All right, here I go with the water. Washing all that moss so it's nice and green looking. Okay, that will do. I noticed around the back of the planting, right here, you can see there's a branch where the tip died off. It still has some green back further, so I'll just prune off the dead bit. And hopefully that branch will continue to grow. There's the odd dead end to some of these branches right here. I'll take that off. But I think overall the pruning was very successful. Everything's green. All the tips of the branches are starting to change color, getting ready to grow. I'll show you a close-up of that. So right here, if I turn this leaf around, see the kind of orange tips on it? That's where all my new growth will come from. And you can see that all over the tree. The tips are all changing that color, getting ready to grow. I finished the work on my Thuja occidentalis root over rock planting. Let's fly in now and have a look at it. I'm taking a final look at the planting. Now, this foliage is really going to fill in over the summer, so I'm hoping it doesn't look quite so sparse in the future. I think it'll fill out nicely with all kinds of branches, and it should look a little more like a natural cedar tree. I really took the pruning back this time on the tree, really pushing the limits of these cedars, trying to keep them small and miniature. And hopefully I'll be successful. I do like the new pot with the trees. I like the new planting angle. I think everything's looking good. I think the next step is just to let the trees recover, the roots to recover, and begin growing once again. I really enjoy working on this little clump of cedars root over rock planting. Even though the trees are small, they have a big feeling to them. And I think that's what bonsai is all about. So that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.